I, female 27, have been married to my wonderful husband 30 for 5 years, but we've been together for 7 years. In all that time, my parents, female 58 and male 60, have never really taken a shine to him, but everyone has always been amicable. That is, everyone except my sister, 22, who seems to think that the world revolves around her. She is the light of my parents' lives and can do absolutely no wrong in their eyes. So, simply put, my husband and I generally keep our distance from her. Last weekend was my dad's 60th birthday and everyone was invited. My husband and I went knowing my sister would be there, but we didn't think much of it. Instead, we expected a pleasant evening celebrating my dad. It's important to note before we go further that my husband follows certain dietary restrictions as part of his religion, which I'm keeping vague. Still, everyone in the family knows and has been accommodating thus far. Unfortunately, after everyone had eaten dinner, my sister announced that she'd specifically asked the caterers to add in some of the restricted food items so that she could test if my husband would even know the difference. To say the least, I was furious. Just for clarification purposes, the restricted ingredients were added into sauces and there were no noticeable pieces. My husband and I were both absolutely appalled and just walked out while my sister yelled that she didn't get the big deal and that we need to take the sticks out of our butts. My parents had absolutely nothing to say and just watched. They later texted me that I should consider that my sister was young and didn't know better. I didn't respond. I guess that leads me to the title. I've gone absolutely no contact with everyone since the party and haven't responded to a single message or phone call, nor has my husband. When my parents showed up at the house, we didn't open the door. I didn't go to the reception when they showed up at work. I haven't laid eyes on them at all. Today, some cops knocked on the door saying they'd received a missing person report and were looking for me. Fortunately, that was all solved quite quickly and that I never actually went missing, but now my friends are saying that I wasted police resources when I could have just texted my parents back, saying that I didn't want to hear from them. I just feel like a grown woman should not have to justify where she is to her parents. Not the idiot. You didn't waste police resources. Your parents did by filing a bogus report that you were missing. Of course, they knew you were upset with them and refused their contact attempts. You might allow an open channel if you think they plan to apologize, but not if they're just going to make excuses again for your sister's awful behavior. And OP, your sister is 22. She did this deliberately. It wasn't by mistake like, "I'm so sorry, I never realized that Worcestershire sauce has anchovies in it or that soy sauce is not always gluten-free." She had to ask the caterers to add this to the sauce in a way that wasn't easily discernible. There's just no excuse for this. I would honestly never want to speak to them unless they started holding Golden Kid accountable. What a horrid thing to do. Yes, having a golden child and calling the police to report someone missing are classic tactics of narcissistic parents. They call the police to try to pressure you into getting back into contact with them, and also because it makes them look super caring to outsiders. They're trying to manipulate you into resuming contact without acknowledging what they've done wrong. Agreed, filing a missing persons report was a power play. Parents knew she wasn't missing, they were just mad that she wasn't answering them. They know she's got no contact for what the golden child did. They were trying to provoke OP to respond. She refused to come down to reception at work. The job obviously wouldn't have said she was missing, or anything that would make a report valid. My wife and I have 8 kids between us. The story is mostly about our young teen, Gina. Gina came to me recently and said that she wants to be vegan. I told her I'd pay for groceries, but she'll have to plan and cook her meals. She can't live off frozen food or takeout, and her mom and I will make sure that her meals are healthy before taking her grocery shopping. She wasn't thrilled. She asked if we could make small changes to our diet to accommodate her, like switching to vegan pasta and cooking the meatballs separately. But we said no because we aren't going to change our food and eating habits because she wants to be vegan. She said okay and went to her room. Then she started sending me and my wife links to expensive pots and pan sets. One set was $800, plates, cups and bowls for $200, and her own utensils. I asked why she was sending it to me, and she said she needed new pots, pans, plates, etc. because ours were contaminated. I told her ours were perfectly fine, and if she wanted her own she could buy them with her allowance and start babysitting. Later that day, I got a call from one of my sons saying that Gina was telling him and my other kids that they have to get all of their snacks out of the fridge in the game room has a kitchenette, because she needs it for her vegan food. When I called and asked what she was doing, she said her vegan food couldn't be in the same fridge as our food, and it's not fair to make her go all the way to the garage when she's hungry, so she thought taking over the game room kitchenette would be a good compromise. I told Gina I was done with the vegan BS and that she couldn't be a vegan while living in my house. She threw a temper tantrum because she thought I was being cruel, and she's barely spoken to me since then, so I wanted to know if I was the idiot. Edit. She thinks it's the same as us not allowing seafood in the house. One kid is deathly allergic, or making Oldest special meals, they have an autoimmune disease. Gina can eat whatever the heck she wants after all that, and we don't mind cooking or ordering it for her. Not the idiot, but this issue is a lot more complicated. It's not about being vegan. I have a daughter. At this age, kids feel like they have zero control over their lives. They're desperately trying to find a way they can assert control. But also, let's call a spade a spade. Young teen girls are emotional roller coasters. Yeah, but 8 kids are a lot. With half that number, kids can feel lost in the shuffle, so I can only imagine 8. OP also mentions that they have one kid with a shellfish allergy, so there's no shellfish in the house, and another kid with severe medical issues whose diet is monitored, and the family eats food that's okay for the kid. I wonder if this whole vegan thing is an attempt to get attention and consideration that she feels she's not getting. I really do see this veganism as a call for help, a call for attention. The insistence on expensive pots and pans is a plea for the parents to show her that they're willing to spend money on her. Demanding refrigerator space could easily be a way of staking out space in the home that is hers alone. I'd bet anything there's a part of this kid that really just wants her parents to acknowledge her. Just the way the OP handled the initial request, throwing everything back on the girl, she had to do this, that, and the next thing, or the privilege of being vegan would be taken away. No help or involvement from the parents, except to judge her. Sorry, but you are the idiot. My 32 female ex-husband Mark, 34, and I have 3 children together. 2 boys and 1 girl. They're all tweens, triplets. Our daughter's name is Ellie, and she's always been much more sensitive than her brothers. She just behaved differently than they did. And in the beginning I dismissed it as the boys being identical and her being the fraternal triplet, but with time I realised it was more than that. Ellie was eventually diagnosed as autistic when she was 4. She's a very sweet and very quiet kid. She doesn't talk very much and she absolutely hates too much sound. Anytime we have to go somewhere, I bring her noise-cancelling headphones and a few of her favourite toys, just in case the headphones don't help enough. Lately, when she has a meltdown, it dissolves into a panic attack, and then she'll just be completely non-verbal for a day or 2. I hate seeing her go through that, so I do everything to help her manage and avoid her triggers when possible. Mark thinks I coddle her too much and that my efforts to help her avoid meltdowns and sensory overloads are actually just me giving in to her tantrums. He's gotten better about that mindset since his girlfriend, Marissa, 33, moved in with him, but sometimes he and I still argue about it. It's supposed to be his week with the kids, so I was just at home catching up on some cleaning when one of my sons called me on Marissa's cell. He said that Ellie had shut herself in her closet and refused to come out, and their dad was getting upset with her about it. So I asked him to put his dad on the phone. Mark immediately told me he could handle Ellie's fits and that our son shouldn't have grabbed Marissa's phone to call me. Still, I told him that I at least wanted to talk about what had triggered Ellie to begin with, and I wanted to talk with her as well, just to see if she was okay. He said Ellie was refusing to talk and that he called me back when she decided to start speaking again. As soon as he hung up on me, I grabbed my keys and drove over to his house. Marissa let me in and I went upstairs, where he was lecturing Ellie through the door and I could hear her sniffling. Mark looked angry to see me, but the boys were standing there so he didn't say anything about it. Eventually, I got Ellie to come out of the closet and she burst into tears and begged me to take her home. She wouldn't let go of my hand and didn't want to go anywhere near her dad. I knew that she'd probably lock herself away again if I left without her, so I told Mark that if she was feeling better in the morning, I'd bring her back. He texted me a few times after we left, saying I ruined his time with Ellie and the reason she hates it over there is that I always come to her rescue. I told my mom about it and she thinks I shouldn't interfere with the kids when they're with their dad, even if there's an issue, because I'd hate it if he did the same thing to me. Not the idiot, mate. He's abusing her. He's refusing to take care of her disability and trying to force her to act normal. He's verbally abusing her when she has a meltdown. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why she has panic attacks. If you send her back, you will be a huge idiot and you will be an enabler in her abuse. Catering to a child's disability as a parent is not optional, it's a need, and to not is neglect. If your child isn't in therapy, she needed to be yesterday, and you need to bring this up with the therapist. Imagine if Ellie had to use a wheelchair, then her dad refused to build a ramp and yelled at her when she couldn't use the stairs. And then, when you suggest building a ramp, he says that will just give in to her neediness and make her less likely to learn how to walk. That's what her dad is doing to her now. It's just harder to visualize the obstacles because we can't see them. Dad is a huge idiot. Mom needs to figure this out. I know going to court is expensive, but it's cheaper than the permanent toll on her child. It'll be cheaper than the cost of all the therapy she'll need if she's forced into this environment. He's your ex for a reason. He's not going to be a magically different person when interacting with your children. Let Mark be angry because he's angry he doesn't have permission to hurt her. Be your child's guardian and guard them. My female 30 sister, 39, has cancer. She's a single mom of her teen son. We were asked to take him in while she gets treated so we could help him focus on studying and provide a normal routine for him. My husband has asthma. He needs his inhaler throughout the day. The thing is, my nephew is a prankster. He'd hide the inhaler as a prank, then give it back as soon as there's panic in the house. So far, he's done it 2 times and thought it was just him messing around. The other day, my husband called me while I was at work, panicking, saying his inhaler was lost. I asked if my nephew had taken it as a prank, but he doubted it since my nephew would give it back instantly after we panicked. I got home, and we looked for it for hours and had to go to the hospital eventually. When we got back, we found it sitting at the coffee table. My husband and I looked at each other, and the next thing we knew, my nephew was giggling upstairs. At that moment, I just lost it. I yelled at him and then told him he was no longer welcome in my home. He started panicking, and my parents called me to get to the bottom of what happened, but they still defended him, saying it was a prank and that I had taken things too far by kicking him out while his mom was struggling. They insisted I take him back, but I refused. Now they're giving me crap about being unsupportive and making things more difficult for my struggling sister. They even blame my husband for not keeping his things locked away. Am I the idiot? Did I make a hasty decision? Not the idiot. It's all fun and games till someone dies from an asthma attack because a spoiled brat stole the inhaler. Your parents just don't want him. He's lucky you're not filing a police report. I mean, what kind of monster finds it funny that his uncle had to go to the hospital directly because of his actions? OP, drop him off at your folks' place unannounced, and when they inevitably call to protest, tell them you kicked him out as a prank that hasn't yet come to fruition. Your husband should not have to keep his things locked away in his own home, especially a medical necessity he needs several times a day. Your nephew is old enough to know better. This is not a harmless prank, and he is repeatedly doing it. If he's acting out because he's scared for his mother, he should be in counseling. Your parents can look after him for a while until he gets it. I have 2 sons with my ex-husband, Cade, teen, and Cale, young teen. Their father and I divorced 10 years ago, and 3 years later he remarried. His wife came with a girl, tween, and a boy, tween, of her own. Problems started that first Christmas when the boys didn't go to his house loaded down with gifts bought by me. I was told I should have bought gifts for the younger children from their new brothers. That was the beginning of what became a crap show. To make a long story short, my ex's stepkids get whatever they like. My ex and wife do not feel my boys should keep things at my house. They feel what the boys own should be shared with the younger step-siblings, and the step-siblings want everything. There are also kids who still, to this day, will throw a tantrum if they don't get their way. My boys do not like them and hate their dad's house. There have been instances where their stuff was broken by the step-siblings in a tantrum, and I might think some of it was exaggerated if I didn't witness some instance with my own eyes. The worst was Cade's birthday. I threw a party for him and his friends. It was a mom's party. Ex is supposed to take care of a celebration with him. He and his wife showed up with her kids, invite themselves into the party, start poking at some of Cade's gifts, and then smash them against the table we were sitting at when Cade wouldn't give them one. I had to get a staff member to force them to leave us alone, but that was all because the kids were told not to take claim of one of my son's gifts. I still share custody of the boys, and the judge will not let them decide to spend less time with their dad. I bring this up because I know it will be asked. Anyway, it was my parenting time with the boys last week. On Saturday, their step-siblings came to the house saying they wanted time with their brothers. I saw no sign of my ex or his wife. I asked them how they got to my house. They said they walked. I told them they would need to walk home. They asked again to come in and I turned them away. Ex called me when they got home and yelled at me for turning the kids away. He said I let them go, not knowing what would happen. On the one hand, I normally wouldn't do it, but seeing as they walked, I figured they could walk back. Not to mention it's only added drama. I need to ask if my dislike of the kids led me to do something that makes me an idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot in my opinion. They walk to your house. They can walk back. Also, how did the custodial parents not notice the kids going on a walkabout at the time? Did they shadow the kids on their walk to your house, or did they just assume bad things only happen on the walk back? Document everything and keep a lawyer updated. At some point, custody can be revisited, and a judge must listen to the kids in the situation. And something couldn't have happened to them on the way to your house? Please, eyes rolling. Sounds like the ex and his wife wanted some alone time and volunteered you to be the sitter unknowingly and unwillingly. Stand your ground with this, OP. Your boys need their peace at your house since they don't get it at Dad's. I try going back to court though, even if it's just less visitation time with him, like maybe just weekends. Those step-siblings sound like horrible little monsters. I'll bet they were sent to your house by your ex and his wife because not even they can stand the brats anymore. Next time, call Child Protective Services to pick up the children that aren't yours. Not your kids, not your problem.